Hello, I'm Mayette Andreasen, and today we are going to be going over the beginnings of how to create an IK-FK switch. Now we're just going to go over the legs, and as you can see, I already have the torso for my character controls created. This is the actual character who was made by a friend of mine, Isaac Oster, so he modeled and textured it. Thank you very much, Isaac. Um, and allowed me to use it for this demo. And so the spine, we've got that working. Spine twist is working well. Center of gravity, that works great. So now we are going to focus on the legs. So the first thing that we need to do is we actually need to select our thighs here. So these are our thighs. Let me just open this up so that we can see all of our joints and our control objects and our IKs. So we have all of this. So these will be going into joints in just a minute. So I'm actually going to be parenting the BN L hippo 1 and the BN R hippo 1 to the BN SPA 01, which is invisible, so we're going to make it visible. Okay, so I'm going to control select BN L hippo 1 in the outliner, or you can shift select them in the work window. And then I'm going to control select BN SPA 01 and hit P to parent. So what that does is it now parents my main leg chain to my torso. So that's pretty important. So we're going to start with that. Now the other thing you need to make sure is that your hips line up with the center of the torso there. So if they don't, there could be knee buckling issues, and it could be really kind of a mess. And so we don't want that. We do want it, we do not want avoid buckling around the knees. And if so, the way to line up your hips with your hip joints or thigh joints, whichever one you want to call them, with the bottom spine joint or the main root joint is, let's go into the right side view just so I can show you. So we're just going to make a random joint chain here just so you see what I did. Right. And with this joint chain selected, now you can of course press V and snap. But what that does is it doesn't necessarily snap to the center of the model. Okay, it might snap to the center of the model, or it might snap to one leg or the other. And in this case, we just want the thighs to be lined up with the hip, with the center or with the root joint. Sorry about that. So let's go into the front view just so we can see this. So I'm going to press V as in Victor, and then I'm going to select the X arrow and just move it over. And as you can see, it snaps actually to where my left side hip is here. So now I'm going to go back into the right view here. I'm going to press V again, and this time I'm going to press my Y arrow. And as you can see, it'll go up and down to whichever joint is up or down. And now I'm going to pressing V again. I'm not letting go. I'm going to press down on the Z arrow and bring it in. So now if I look at this in perspective view, as we can see, this joint is now lined up perfectly with the root joint here. So it's lined up with the root joint here. Happens to be lined up with the hip as well. So if this was your hip joint, it would be lined up perfectly with the root, but it wouldn't be in the center of the root, right? It would be where it needs to be in order to move that left side of the character's hip. All right, so that's how you line up those joints, and you should do that before you parent those thigh or hip joints to your root joint. All right, so now that we have done that, and now that they're both parented, we want to make sure, I do want to make sure that you have cleaned up your rig a little bit. So you can see that all our joints are in the joints 01 group. You should have a joints 01 group. Put your joints there. That's where all your joints go. All right. So we are going to select our left bind thigh. So that's this guy. And we're going to go to the outliner, and we're going to press F in the outliner. And when we do that, that's going to jump to the actual thigh so we can see it. Let me close this up so we don't see all of those constraints. So we have now jumped to the thigh. So you can jump to any thing that you want to in the outliner by pressing F. Because obviously as our rig gets more complex, it's going to be harder to find certain things. So that's a little keyboard shortcut to how you can find things in the outliner. All right, we are going to duplicate the left thigh chain twice. And these two chains are going to be our FK and IK chain. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control D and Control D. And then we are going to select both of those duplicates and move them above the right thigh. So that's what we're going to do. Actually, both my left and my right here are below my all of my left joint chains, excuse me, are below my right joint chain. So I'm going to actually middle mouse drag them, and you'll see there's just one line here, not a double line. So now they're all above the right chain, which is great. So that's number one. Number two, I need to go in here and I need to delete a couple extra joints. So the things that we do not need is we don't need these bottom joints to my duplicates. We just don't need those. So we're going to get rid of them right now. We're going to get rid of them on both the right and left side. And there we go. Well, the left side. And let's open this one up. Okay, now we need to rename both of these joint chains. And so the joint chains are going to be named as follows. The IK one is going to be JDRV L thigh IK01. So how do we change that without having to rename every single thing in the chain? Well, we're going to go to search and replace names. Now I have this on my shelf, but I could go to modify, search and replace names. And what I'm going to look for initially is BN, which stands for bind, and I'm going to replace it with JDRV underscore. So BN underscore replaced with JDRV underscore. Voila, we have that. And then I'm going to change this 02 to 01, and I'm going to search for 01 and replace it with underscore IK01 and hit apply. And as you can see, that changes everything in that IK joint chain there. And we're going to do the same over here for our FK. So we're going to start with BN underscore, and we're going to replace it with JDRV underscore. There we go. And then we're going to make this 01, and then we'll be able to search for 01 and replace it with underscore FK01 and hit replace. And so now we have both of these joint chains renamed, which is fabulous. Okay. We are going to select the IK joint chain next, and we're going to select hierarchy. It's SH on my shelf. If you don't have it on your shelf, you can go to select hierarchy, and that will select everything. To add things to your shelf, remember to hit Control Shift and then find the thing you want and click it all simultaneously. So pressing Control, I'm pressing Shift, I'm pressing Select and Hierarchy, and as you can see, it is now on my shelf. To delete extra nodes on your shelf, you can right mouse press and press delete. So we already have select hierarchy over here. Okay, so now that everything is selected, we are going to make the radius of our joints larger so that we can see them, right? Because we have 3 joint chains right here and it looks like we just have 1. So we're going to change the radius from 0.5 to 1.5. And we're going to do the same for our FK, only we're going to change the radius to 1. Okay, so now that we have done that, we are going to mirror both of these chains. So we don't need to do all those steps that we did on this side. What we can do is we can just select our chains and we can mirror them. So you need to be in the rigging drop down, and we are going to go to skeleton mirror joints. Now I would right mouse press, or not right mouse press, I would go into the options box, excuse me, and make sure the mirror crosses in YZ, search for underscore L underscore, replace with underscore R underscore, and hit mirror. Okay, so that's our right IKs. Okay, and now we're going to do the FKs, and all we have to do is skeleton mirror joint, or you can press G on your keyboard, which will repeat your last action. Okay, so now we have both of these. So best thing to do at this point is File, Save Scene As. So I've been going through this previously. I like to name things according to where I am in the rigging process. I find that makes it easier for me to go back if I mess up. So that's what I've done. So this is the leg FKIK switch. So this is where we're starting here. Okay. All right, so now that we've saved this, we need to set up some Orient constraints to blend between our IK and FK joints. So we want to expand the thigh or leg sections on both chains, and we're going to start with the IK thighs. So these are our left IK thighs. So select JDRV, L hip, IK01, whatever you've named this top joint. And then we're going to control select in the outliner the BNL hip 01. Okay, we're going to go to constrain, orient, options box, and reset settings. Make sure you reset those settings, and we're going to hit apply. Okay, and now we're going to select the FK thigh. Right, so JDRV L hip FK01. We're going to go back up to our bind L hip 01, and we're going to orient constrain that guy. We don't have to worry about the ankles, okay? But we do have to worry about the knees. So let's do the same thing. We're going to select our IK knee, which is this guy, JDRV L knee IK01. And we're going to go to our bind L knee 01. We're going to orient constraint that. Then we're going to go to our JDRV L knee FK01 and go to our bind L knee 01. And we are going to orient constraint. All right, so let's repeat that on the right side. I know that was a lot. So it makes it a little easier. We're going to just close these up so that we don't get confused here. So now we can open up the right side joints. So we're going to select our JDRV R hip IK01 and then control select the bind right hip 01, and we're going to orient constraint. By the way, if you hit apply in your orient constraint window, the window will stay open. If you hit add, the window will close. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now we're going to select the JDRV R hip FK01 and go to our bind R hip 01 and hit apply. And now we're going to do the same for the knees. So I'm going to select my JDRV R knee IK01 and go to my bind R knee 01 and hit apply. And then we're going to go to our JDRV R knee FK01 and go to our bind R knee 01 and hit apply. Okay, so now that we've done that, always good to save, right? Always want to save. You could save it as a different version if you'd like. All right, so next we want to add IK handles to our IK joints. Now, what I recommend is making all the FK joints invisible. So you can select the FK hip for the right side and hit H. That will make the whole chain invisible. You can do the same with the bind knee chain. Just hit BNR hip 01, hit H. That's going to make it invisible. Okay. We're going to do the same with the FKs here. All right, so the only two chains we have invisible, by the way, if you hit shift and the little plus sign next to a joint chain, it'll open up that entire chain. So we only have our IKs visible, which is good because we don't want to accidentally put an IK chain on our FKs or on our main joint chain. All right, so now that we've made everything invisible, we are going to start with this left side here. So in under rigging, we're going to go to skeleton, create IK handle. Let's reset the tool. You want to make sure it's on rotate plane solver. Okay, make sure it's on rotate plane solver, default settings, and then you're going to click on the hip and click on the ankle. And voila, there we have it. But before we go anywhere, we need to name these things, otherwise things get confusing really fast. So we're going to name our IK handle RP, which stands for rotate plane, underscore L, which stands for left, underscore leg IK01. Now this chain also has something called an effector, and this is the effector. It's always invisible, but we'd like to name it too because as you can see, we already have an effector number 2. This is what's effector number 1? Well, there's an effector, excuse me, affecting the IK spline. So this effector we are going to name EFF. Oh, it'd be nice if I could spell right. EFF underscore L underscore leg IK01. Excuse me. I apologize. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to do the IK handle on the other side. So let's go back to skeleton, create IK handle. All our settings should be fine. We're going to click on the right thigh and then click on the right ankle for the IK IK right side joint chain, and we're going to rename it RP underscore R leg IK01. And there we go. So we have that, which is fantastic. And we're going to rename the effector as well, which is going to be EFF underscore R underscore leg IK01. All right, so we've renamed all of those, which is fantastic. I would recommend saving at around this time, and you can always save it as a different version. See? So we are going to, before we save it, let's store our IK handles into their IKs group. So you see here I have an IKs group. So if you select these IK handles, you can control select IKs01 and hit P to parent. And so that just drags those IK handles into our group there. So that's where they're going to stay. It's where they're hanging out. All right, so I am going to save this as a different version, and I'm good. The next step is a different version. So this is going to be 02. And here we go. All right, so we need to make some attributes, and we're going to add those attributes, and these attributes are going to basically be the switch. But we're going to add these attributes to our center of gravity control. So as you can see here, I have a CC underscore COG01. I already made my center of gravity control, and I have other tutorials that go over how you can make a spine, the spine controls, and the center of gravity control, which is part of the spine controls. All right, so we have our center of gravity control and we want to make some new attributes. So we're going to go to the attribute editor and we're going to go to edit, add attribute. Now the first thing that we want to make is we want to make a separator, and this separator is going to separate basically like the rotate or all these from the initial channels that come with it. And so we're going to put 2 underscores. We're going to make the attribute displayable. The data type is going to be enum, and when you have the enum data type, you have the option of 2 different names. Actually, you have the option of more than just 2 different names, but this is where our switch is going to be. All right, so for the blue name, we're just going to get rid of blue there, but for green, it's going to be called IKFK underscore legs. Okay, and we're going to add. Once again, if you do add instead of OK, it's going to keep this window open. So we're going to be making a lot of attributes right now. So now for our long name, instead of 2 underscores, because this is going to be a keyable attribute, we're going to do L underscore leg IKFK. It's going to be keyable. It's going to be enum. This time, the blue, we're going to call this FK, okay? And that's its new name. And green's new name is going to be IK. And then we're going to click Add. All right, so next we have long name R underscore leg IKFK, right? It's going to be keyable. It's going to be enum. Green is going to be new name IK, and the new name for blue will be FK. But we're not done. Why aren't we done? Because we're going to have arms to this character, and this character is going to need an FKIK switch for the arms as well. So we're going to do a separator between the leg IKs and the arm IKs. So the long name is going to be 3 underscores. It's going to be displayable. And then the enum is, we're just going to, for green, or for blue, we're going to delete the name. And for green, it's going to be IKFK arms underscore arms, right? Because we need that, and we're going to add it. Okay, so now we're going to make some keyable attributes here. So the long name is going to be L underscore arm IKFK, right? It's going to be keyable enum. Green is going to be IK, and blue will be FK. All right, add. Okay, and then we have our right side arms IKFK. So R underscore arm IKFK is a keyable attribute. It's enum. Green, we're going to make it what we've always made it, IK, and blue, we're going to make it FK. And now we're hitting OK. So if you look over here on the right hand side of your right, right, the character's left, side of the screen, we can see all these new attributes we have, and you can actually see that there is a drop down here. So there is a drop down for the IKs to switch to FKs, which is great. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is we're going to connect our Orient constraints to all the channels that we just made. And I'm going to start that up actually in the next video. So I'll see you in just a few.